So let's talk about James Talarico's trash interview with Ayman Mohadeen the other day. And before I get into it, let me just address the comments I've been getting a lot since I made the videos talking about Jasmine Crockett's Senate race in Texas. First is you don't even live in Texas, so like, why are you? Because they're running for federal office. Their votes are going to affect the entire country. If they're voting to send bombs to kill Palestinian children, that is our business. That is everyone's business. And then, of course, why are you single issue voters? Like, there's a lot more. Like, what does this have to do with Palestine? People who say dumb shit like, oh, you're a single issue voter, or what does Israel Palestine have to do with Texas? Do you have any idea how much of Texas taxpayer money goes to the Israeli regime every year? Texas taxpayer money that goes to the Israeli regime to fund their healthcare and fund their illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, while the governor was literally threatening a town who wanted to divest from the Israeli regime. So even if you are one of those blue MAGA sociopaths that say, you're a single issue voter, why do you care so much about children getting incinerated with our money? Like, even if you are an immoral piece of shit that doesn't give a shit about the genocide in Gaza, they're using your money to pay for those bombs, to pay for the Israelis to have healthcare, to pay for illegal settlement. That directly affects people in Texas. Do you know that Texas made it so that you can't get FEMA funds from a natural disaster if you don't support the Israeli regime? They make people sign that shit. They have anti-BDS laws throughout the entire state. In fact, that's one of the first time I remember ever hearing about BDS. Years ago, I remember reading an article, I think it was in The Intercept, about a teacher in Texas who was fired because she refused to sign a document saying that she wouldn't boycott Israel. And even though I didn't know anything about Palestine at the time, and I wouldn't for a while, I remember thinking, I must be missing something. There has to be more to this story. There's no way that a teacher in Texas would get fired from that because we have a First Amendment. No, turns out that was the story. So when people say, why are you making this race in Texas about Israel, Palestine? Why don't you ask the politicians that? Ask your politicians why they keep saying anti-Israel policies, anti-Texas policy. Then there's the obligatory, what about the Republicans? How many years before you ding-dongs understand that you don't fight the fascist Republicans by being fascist adjacent and Republican light? Like, so many of you refuse to see the connection between your refusal to demand anything of your politicians and them continually moving to the right. You are not helping them by refusing to demand that they hold some bare minimum positions and standards. You are helping the Republicans when you do that. Why don't you criticize the Republican candidates in Texas? I literally do. What you probably mean by that bad faith question is, why do I criticize the Democrats more? Because I sometimes will vote for Democrats. I don't fucking vote for Republicans. Being like, well, why do you get so mad at your husband and not Jessica's husband? Because I don't fuck Jessica's husband. Well, then what's your plan? Then what would you suggest people do? All complaints, no solution. The solution is to condition your vote. I've already said this, but I'll keep saying it. Condition your vote. I know you guys have been conditioned to not ask anything of your politicians and basically work as their free PR agents, but they're supposed to be representing you. So this is a primary. You get to ask for things. You get to demand things of them, and you should. Not just because they should be representing your interests, but also because by refusing to ask or demand anything better of the Democratic Party, you are helping the Republicans. Because believe it or not everybody is a diehard Democrat. A lot of you guys think because you're like vote blue no matter who DNC dick riders, that's how everyone thinks. No, that's not how everyone thinks. You need to appeal to independents. You need your candidates to appeal to the left. You need your candidates to appeal to disaffected liberal voters. And in order to do that, there needs to be a clear distinction between the Republican and the Democrat. And I'm sorry if I have to be the one to tell you that in 2026, running against Trump or Republican bad is not enough. So that was a long caveat, and I know that the people that probably need to hear that most won't, but let's get into this interview and why his answers are unacceptable. He was asked specifically about the money that he has taken from Miriam Adelson, who, if you don't know who Miriam Adelson is, she is the lunatic that gave Trump, a huge Trump donor, by the way, $250 million so that he would support the Israeli regime annexing the occupied West Bank. She is one of the major forces behind the draconian crackdowns on your free speech under this administration, including the crackdown at UT Austin. So for the, what does this have to do with Texas? Only your First Amendment rights. She is so integral to the Trump administration and the Israeli regime that he went there and shouted her out after the alleged ceasefire deal, which, by the way, it's not a ceasefire. They're still killing Palestinians every single day. But, in the West, when white people get killed, we say, oh my gosh, we can't believe it. One life is too many. But Palestinians get killed every single day, and we call that a ceasefire. The fact that anyone that calls themselves a Democrat, let alone somebody who's prepared to take on the billionaire class, would accept money from Miriam Adelson, would accept money from a mega Trump donor. Why not just take money from Elon Musk while you're at it? If somebody is taking money from the people that have the same interests as Trump, you should be worried about that. Why is he taking money from a fanatical Zionist extremist? Do you think that colors how he talks about Gaza? Anyway, let's get to this embarrassing interview where he not only won't answer directly the question about Miriam Adelson, but then he goes on to give a word salad non-answer about the genocide in Gaza and about Netanyahu.
Campaign finance data shows that a group funded by the casino mogul Miriam Adelson was the biggest donor to your House re-election race last year. Can you clarify that? Will you be taking money from her or any organization that she supports? Will you be taking money from AIPAC in this election year?
Well, if there's any money going through a corporate PAC, I won't be accepting it, as I said. And I have always supported legalizing gambling here in Texas. It is good public policy.
That's not what he
will bring
asked.
good jobs to Texas and will bring desperately needed tax revenue for our public schools. As you may know, I'm a former public school teacher, and I have fought in the trenches of the Texas legislature to save Texas public schools. And so I'm always going to support policies that achieve that goal. And to answer your last question, no, I will not be accepting money from AIPAC.
Nice not answering the question. Corporate PACs aren't the only PACs and super PACs that people give money through, right? He knows that. He just doesn't think you know that. Second of all, it is not enough to just say, oh, I'm not taking money from AIPAC and then low-key take other money from other Israeli lobbying groups like Kufi or J Street or DMFI. Yes, we mean AIPAC, but we also use AIPAC as kind of a catch-all for all Israeli lobbying money. So don't let them get away with that nonsense. Unfortunately, it's about to get worse.
Can I ask you to build on that, what your current stance is on Israel's assault on Gaza and what you believe should be done? If, for example, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu were to come here to the United States, would you as a senator support his arrest? What do you think is the correct path forward there?
There's a theologian who said, I screamed at God for the starving children until I realized the starving children was God screaming at me. And God is screaming at all of us in Gaza as we speak. Israel has a right to exist and a right to defend itself just like any nation. But Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't have the right to wage war against civilians.
The actual fucking nerve of him starting out with that little nice anecdote about a theologian and how you don't have a right to hurt God's children, and then following it up with Israel has a right to defend itself and to exist. How fucking dare you follow it up with that bullshit, that fucking bullshit Hasbara propaganda talking point that is always used to justify more slaughter of the Palestinians. States don't have a right to exist. People have a right to exist. And also, defend itself? You really have the goddamn minerals to come out here 2 years into this Holocaust and repeat that, well, they have a right to defend themselves horseshit? Defend themselves against what? Against who? Against who? The fucking babies? What about the Palestinians? What about the Palestinians' right to defend themselves? What about their right to exist? Putting aside that it's a fucking stupid thing to say, because Israel does exist. So why do you keep fucking saying that? No one sits around and is like, America has a right to exist. You know who doesn't have a state? The Palestinians. You know who doesn't have the ability to defend themselves because the Israeli regime controls every aspect of their lives? The Palestinian. A Palestinian baby just fucking died from hypothermia because the Israeli regime is still blocking aid from coming in, and the strip has been flooded. They don't have heat, they don't have fuel, they don't have hot water, their tents have all been flooded, they are freezing to death. Instead of you coming out and forcefully calling that shit out and saying that they are currently committing fucking war crimes by blocking aid, you sit here and go, Israel has a right to defend itself by slaughtering Palestinians every day, but we're all God's children, am I right? Hey, pastor's kid, let's talk Christian to Christian here for a second. Fucking repent, because what you're doing right now is wicked. Hear me now. Anyone in the year of our Lord 2025, soon to be 2026, repeating that fucking line, Israel has a right to defend themselves to exist. You are not just consenting to more annihilation of the Palestinian people, you are promoting it. How dare you call yourself a Christian and then fucking talk like that? You should apologize.
Right to wage war against civilians, to use famine and collective punishment as tactics. So to answer your question, as a U.S. Senator, I will use the financial and diplomatic leverage in this country to stop the atrocities and the suffering in Gaza.
Would you meet with Netanyahu?
It is also It's also for the people of Israel, because Benjamin Netanyahu's disastrous war has made people of
You're
Israel
not
and
saying
Jewish people
anything.
all over the world less safe as a result.
You're
And so
not
I think this
saying
crisis
anything.
deserves immediate action. I'm less interested in what.
That was a whole lot of nothing. He didn't say anything there. That word salad was his way of rattling on to not answer the question about Netanyahu, which should have been an unequivocal, yes, we would enforce international law. Because that warrant that's out for his arrest from the ICC is from the fucking International Criminal Court. You don't get to sit there and talk about how you care about international law and the rule of law and ethics and morals, and then when somebody asks you, hey, would you enforce a warrant against a war criminal should he come to the United States? You're like, what the? Do you guys notice that the playbook hasn't changed? Their script has not changed since 2023. Every time they are asked about stopping the fucking genocide or holding Israel accountable, they trot out this same script. So this entire time while the Palestinians are being massacred and Gaza has been leveled and the Israelis are taking more and more territory and still refusing to let aid into the strip, they're still reading off the same 2023 J Street script. Well, we're really upset, and Netanyahu's being a very mean man. I hope he lets them eat soon. Meanwhile, Palestinians are literally freezing to death while aid sits on the other side of the border because Israel won't let it in. And why would they? They know there's not going to be any consequences for their barbarism. At best, you're going to get this fucking guy coming on here going, tut, tut.
Miriam Adelson was the biggest donor to your House reelection race last year. Can you clarify that? Will you be taking money from her or any organization that she supports? Will you be taking money from AIPAC in this election year?
Well, if there's any money going through a corporate PAC, I won't be accepting it, as I said. And I have always supported legalizing gambling here in Texas. It is good public policy.
That's not what
It
he
will bring
asked.
good jobs to Texas, and will bring desperately needed tax revenue for our public schools. As you may know, I'm a former public school teacher, and I have fought in the trenches of the Texas legislature to save Texas public schools. And so I'm always going to support policies that achieve that goal. And to answer your last question, no, I will not be accepting money from AIPAC in this race.
I wonder if him taking money from a Zionist extremist billionaire Trump mega donor influences how he speaks about Gaza. Go back to the drawing board, sir, because this ain't it, and no one should accept it. And this goes for any candidate running for office in 2026. Instead of doing the what about Republicans, you should be demanding your politicians not resemble them.